Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're cutting through all the noise. We're going to dive into one of the most powerful but also smallest pieces of source material we have ever covered on the show. It's just a single page. We're calling it the Clarity Mandate for Communication. And while it looks really simple, it basically contains the foundational rules for effective knowledge transfer. So think of it this way. Maybe you're trying to absorb a new field of study really fast for a project, or you're the one trying to explain that complex thing to an outside team. Our mission today is to just distill the three core principles from this mandate. The idea is to get maximum information gain with, minimum mental effort. It's like the ultimate efficiency hack.
I love that framing. I really do, because the simplicity of the text itself it's almost misleading. You see phrases like clear and simple language or avoid unnecessary jargon. And you think, well, yeah, obviously. But if it were actually common sense, we wouldn't spend half our lives, wrestling with dense reports or confusing presentations. For anyone listening, for the learner, this deep dive is going to be a crucial diagnostic tool.
Okay, let's unpack this right away, starting at the very top. The first directive, clear and simple language. We use those words, clear and simple, almost like they're the same thing. But the mandate seems to treat them as two different forces. So what's the real relationship here? Are they just synonyms?
That distinction is so vital. And it's actually where a lot of communicators fail. They assume, if I just use simple words, my meaning will automatically be clear. But that's not always true. Clarity is the objective. That's the destination. It means the intended meaning is, well, it's unmistakable. It's unambiguous.
Right. So clarity is the measure of success. Did my message land exactly as I intended it to?
Exactly. Simplicity, on the other hand, is the mechanism. It's the vehicle you use to get clarity. It refers pretty much just to the delivery, the structure. So we achieve simplicity by using common vocabulary, choosing active voice, using short sentences, not those long winding clauses.
That makes perfect sense. So clarity is the outcome of being easy to understand.
Yeah.
And simplicity is the how. It's the method you use to get there.
Precisely. And the whole philosophy of the mandate is kind of baked right into that distinction. By prioritizing simplicity, you are fundamentally respecting the listener's time, their mental bandwidth. You're basically saying, hey, I value your attention, and I'm not going to make you work any harder than you absolutely have to.
And that's a huge shift in mindset, isn't it? Because when you're talking about complex ideas, there's this subtle belief that complex subjects require complex language. But if you actually listen to the most brilliant people explain their work, they almost always simplify the expression. Not the idea itself, but the way they say it.
Absolutely. The ability to explain a complex idea simply is not a sign of being superficial. It's a sign of total mastery. If you know it well enough, you can strip away all the baggage, all the academic or corporate fluff, and just show the core idea. And on the flip side, as we'll get into, if you struggle to explain something simply, that might suggest you don't understand it quite as well as you think.
And that brings us right to the great gatekeeper of understanding, jargon. The mandate's key negative instruction is to avoid unnecessary jargon. And that one word, unnecessary, is the most interesting part of the rule to me. It suggests jargon isn't always a bad thing.
Right. It forces you to ask, okay, when is jargon necessary and when does it just get in the way? And we have to admit, jargon has a function. It's specialized terminology. Among people in the same field, it is incredibly efficient. It's basically knowledge shorthand.
It's a specialized language built for speed and precision, but only if everyone in the room has the same dictionary.
Exactly right. Think about, say, a specific medical diagnosis, or in a legal context, a term like fiduciary duty. That technical phrase means something very specific, very precise, and legally enforceable. If you tried to swap that out with something simpler, like being a trustworthy person, you lose all that essential legal precision. In that case, the jargon fiduciary duty is necessary. No simple phrase can do the same job.
So necessary jargon is for when simplicity would actually compromise the core meaning.
Yeah.
Okay. But what about all the unnecessary stuff? Because that's where the real friction happens.
Oh, yeah. The vast majority of jargon we run into in our professional lives is completely unnecessary. We're talking about corporate buzzwords that are used for signaling, not for precision. Replacing a simple word like cooperation with synergy, or saying we need to leverage our core competencies instead of just we should use our skills.
I think I just had a physical reaction to leverage our core competencies.
It's the language of making things sound more complicated than they are. Obfuscation. And this is exactly why the mandate warns against it. For the learner, the person you're trying to teach, that jargon immediately violates the easy-to-understand rule. It's a gatekeeper. It forces them to stop, look up a word they didn't need to know, and then try to plug it back into the sentence they were trying to understand in the first place.
So if I'm explaining something, and I use a special term when a common one would work just fine, I'm basically putting up a wall between me and the other person. I've stopped sharing knowledge and started demanding credentials.
That is the critical distinction. The mandate implies you should be constantly auditing your own language. You have to ask yourself, can a simple common word do the job here? If the answer is yes, then the jargon is unnecessary, and according to the mandate, you have to cut it. The burden of proof is always on the complex word.
Okay, but that sounds exhausting, to do that for every single sentence. Is there a shortcut? A way to spot it in your own speech?
There is, actually. You know you've committed a jargon crime when you use a phrase that's longer or more complicated than the simple word it replaces. But it doesn't add any new meaning. A good rule of thumb, especially for email, is to ask yourself if a fourth grader could get the gist of the sentence. If swapping deep dive into the Q3 deliverables with look closely at the third quarter results makes it clearer, then the first one was unnecessary jargon.
I have to confess, I once tried to explain a contract process using the phrase holistic vertical integration.
Yeah.
And I immediately had to stop and explain what holistic meant to the person. That totally defeated the purpose. I was trying to sound smart, and I just ended up sounding confusing.
That is the perfect illustration. You were prioritizing the display of expertise over the transfer of knowledge. And listen, we all do it. But the clarity mandate is really a confidence check. The most confident people, the ones who truly own their material, they aren't afraid to sound simple.
Okay, let's pivot now. Let's really focus on Section 3, the application, the so what TD Bay. We've defined how to produce clear communication. But for our audience, the learner, how do they use this mandate as a tool for consuming information?
This is where it becomes a really powerful filter for knowledge. So our learner persona is always trying to consume information quickly and deeply. If you're tackling a new field, say you have to read 5 dense academic papers, you just don't have time to painstakingly decode every single one.
So how does the mandate help me triage those sources? How do I pick the right one?
You just apply the mandate in reverse. You filter for clarity. You can quickly start to spot the sources and the speakers who actually want to transfer knowledge versus those who just want to sound smart. When you hit a source that's just riddled with unnecessary jargon, that source is creating friction for you. It's making you spend, say, 80% of your effort just decoding the language and only 20% actually internalizing the concept.
That cognitive load is huge.
It really is. I mean, think about the effort. Every single time you have to stop, reread a sentence, look up a term, you've just wasted precious mental energy. That energy should have been spent linking the new idea to what you already know. When a source follows the clarity mandate, they're minimizing that waste. They're delivering pure concepts straight to your brain.
This means a learner can develop a complexity meter. If I'm reading an article and I find myself looking up more than a couple of terms per paragraph, and they're terms that could have been simplified, that's a huge red flag. I should probably just drop that source and find one that values my time more.
Precisely. You're identifying the most efficient pathways for knowledge. Communication that follows this mandate makes sure ideas are retained because they were easy to grasp in the first place. For you, the learner, it just maximizes your comprehension and minimizes the time you spend fighting the delivery system. You get to focus on the difficulty of the idea, which is where the real work is, not the artificial difficulty of the presentation.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, it says something about the source's integrity. If someone is truly confident in their argument, they should be able to make it accessible. It's the complex topic, simply explained, that shows true command.
And what's really fascinating here is that the clarity mandate it's a strategic choice. It's not just about grammar or style. It's about choosing reach over exclusivity. It maximizes the chance your message will not only be understood, but will be remembered and acted on. It treats attention as the finite, valuable resource that it is.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now? We've broken down the source, we've defined clear versus simple, and we've set up the rules for that jargon audit. Now for the final thought. The challenge. Over the next 24 hours, just actively apply this mandate to your own language. Every time you write an email or explain a concept, just ask yourself, did I make the most accessible choice here? Specifically, audit your use of those filler phrases like at the end of the day or move the needle. Could you have replaced those 3 or 4 words with one simple, direct one?
And then extend that audit to what you consume. The next time you're in a meeting or reading a report, actively notice every single piece of unnecessary jargon. Because once you see how often this rule is broken and how much mental energy it actually costs you, you will be permanently equipped with a much more efficient filter for learning.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the clarity mandate. Focus on simplicity, achieve clarity, and watch how much faster you learn. See you next time.